Let's take a look at the two project structure. In the My Second app under the Mule folder, there is a configs.xml and handle error.xml. Configs.xml would have all the configuration like the HTTP configuration, database configuration, or the FTP configuration, whereas handle error would have a global error handler. Compare it to the My First app. It has only one file called global XML, which has the global error handler as well as the global configuration. The My Second app and the My First app.xml have the business logic. If we have a look at the resources folder of My Second app, we can see dev.yaml, prod.yaml, which would have the properties, and the file.dwl, which has the data view script. Whereas in My First app, the properties files are in the .properties extension, dev and prod properties, and there appears no data view script file, meaning the data view scripts are in line. So if we closely observe the two structures, we can see those are quite different. Now, if these two projects are part of the bigger scenario, which has 50 different projects, and all of them follow their own project structure, and these projects are going live to production under a single release. Considering the fact that a code spends most of its lifetime in the maintenance phase, managing, debugging, and navigating through the code would be a nightmare for the operations team, thereby affecting the overall productivity. To solve this problem, we need a consistent project structure to be followed across multiple development teams. A good project structure would separate the Mule configuration files, RAML files, and properties files properly. Once a standardized structure has been framed, we can create a skeleton and distribute it among the teams. And this would help us in standardizing the project structure. Now, how do we achieve this? The answer is pretty simple. We use a Maven archetype to do this. Before creating a Maven archetype, let's have a look at a standard project structure. So as we can see, I have a project demo, and in that I have added all the required dependencies to the POM file. So my POM file includes a custom connector, which I believe it should be used across all the projects. Like it could be your custom logging connector. Then the default connector, whenever you default dependencies, whenever we create a project, those are auto included. Other than that, you can add, if we are using secure properties, then we need to add the Mule secure configuration property module. You can just modify it as per the requirements, like if there are any uh, database dependencies, we can add those accordingly. Now moving to the Mule folder, I have only two files as of now. One is the common one, which can be used across different projects, like the global error handler. So in previous video I've created a video on global error handler. You can watch the video by clicking on the link at the top right corner of this video, or it will be placed in the description of this video as well. Apart from the global error handler, I've also added global elements like configuration property and listener configuration. In listener configuration, we can add certificates, TLS configuration, and configuration property has the common.yaml and the environment specific properties. The demo.xml will have business logic. So I've left it blank. The developer would add his business logic in this file. Next up, in the resources folder, I have API folder. In the API folder, there is demo.raml, and the raml structure can be created here, and the associated data types and XML should be placed under this folder. In config folder, I have multiple environments properties and also common.yaml, which is independent of the environment. Again, in secure, I would place all the secure properties for their respective environment. So this is a rough idea of how a standard project structure would look like. It may be changed depending on your requirement. So once this project structure is ready, we can create an archetype. So to create an archetype, let's navigate to the folder, and in this demo, I'll open a command prompt, and there is a Maven command to do that. It's Maven archetype create from project. You copy this command and paste it. So it might take some time. So the archetype build has been completed successfully. Now let's go to the target folder, and in the target folder we can see a generated sources. The generated sources has archetype, and inside we have src target and pom.xml. Now let's go to the src folder, main, resources. So this is the place where the actual code is present. The archetype resources will have all the files created from our actual project. If I go to this folder, we can see the src folder, mule artifact.json, pom file, and the class path and project files. If I go to the src folder, I can see main, mule folder, resources folder. It has API, raml, config, and all the files. Now let's go to the mule folder first and see. If you see, one of the XML file which had the name same as the application name is being replaced by underscore underscore artifact id underscore underscore dot xml, whereas common dot xml is same. So what Maven did is it replaced the application name which was found to this format. So whenever, while creating a Maven generate command, it would replace this artifact ID with the artifact ID that we are passing from the command prompt. Now if I open this, we can see there are few things added like set symbol pound, set symbol dollar, set symbol escape. So what it actually means is that in this, I think we won't get better idea. Let's open the common.xml. Okay, so if we see set symbol pound, set symbol dollar, and set symbol escape. So in our config, if we see this line, or it's better if I go to the studio and open common, and if I go to the configuration XML and navigating to like mule.env, dollar mule.env. So it has replaced this dollar as symbol dollar, and then it is mule.env. So why does it behave this way? Why is it replacing the symbol dollar? Why it is replacing the dollar symbol using symbol dollar? So what actually happens is when the when the Maven would read this file, and if it encounters an actual dollar followed by whatever the property is, it will search for that particular property inside Maven. For example, here dollar symbol dollar is there, so it will replace symbol dollar with the actual dollar. So what if it kept it as it is, like dollar $mule.env? So it would not be able to find this. It would not be able to find the mule.env, and that then it would cause an error. So that's the reason it's replacing the dollar sign with symbol dollar. Okay, now it has created the configuration properly. Now let's go back to the resources folder, and in the API let's check this file. So over here it's RAML and title is my API. Now suppose I do not want this hard coded as my API. Instead, even for this I want it to be replaced by the artifact or the application name. So how do I do it? It's simple. I'll remove this and replace it with dollar artifact ID. So this will replace the value with an artifact ID which is being passed, but this will not simply work. We'll have to inform that we have to use the same. We have to inform Mule to actually replace this with the artifact ID, and to do that we need to go back to the meta.inf, meta-inf. So here is where we have the archetype metadata.xml. If I edit this, it has all the details in it. Let's go step by step. File sets denotes what are the file sets is a collection, and it will have multiple file set, and it denotes what all files or folders do we need to copy. Okay, now it has a filtered attribute. When the filtered is set to true, it is where you want to include the dynamic properties, like the way we did now for the RAML file. If you go and check the RAML file, generated source archetype, so like in this RAML, it if we mention it as filtered, it would be able to inject these values while creating the project. So that is what filtered means. Filtered equal to true is that it will inject the values present in those files at the runtime. So here the filter is applicable for all the XML files which are under the directory resource. Again, filter is valid for all the XML file present under the directory Mule. In similar manner, we do not have filtered enable for RAML or YAML files, and that's the reason we could not see we didn't see this replaced by the artifact ID. We had to manually do because it didn't replace. So now for this to work, this to actually replace, we need to add a tag called filter in the RAML. So here what we'll do is in file set we'll add filtered equals true. So at the runtime it will automatically inject those values. Let's save this. . So I've added filtered equal to 2 for the YAML files. Again, I don't need the class path and the dot project file, so I can remove this two files from the file set. So let's remove those files. Git ignore and mule artifact.json, that is fine. We need this. So we have removed those two files. Also, I would like to add the data types and examples folder, because unless and until I add this, the two empty folders would not appear. So I'll add those two file sets. I already have a copy of it, so I'll just copy and paste them. Alright, so we have copied, I have copied the two file set. One has the data type and one has the examples. Unless I add this, since those are blank folders, they won't appear in the final project that we create. So let's just save this. Again, let's go back to the src folder and resources, main resources. Now I have a problem in this config. What I want is, I don't want it to be my company. Instead, I want it to be replaced with the artifact ID. So what we can do is, we can just remove this my company with the artifact ID. Let's do the same for all other files so as to get it replaced with the artifact ID. So now I've changed all the names with the artifact ID, and the same thing I've done for the secure ones, artifact id.dev. So everything will start with the artifact ID. In case if you have given demo as an artifact ID, it will become demo.dev.sec.yaml, demo.prod.sec.yaml. So there's one more change that we need to do, because if we go back to the project and if we check the configuration, let's go to the global elements and look at the configuration. What it's saying is my company dot mule env. Okay, but now we have replaced this with the artifact ID. So how do we fix this? So again, let's go back to the resources, and it's in the main folder. We need to go back to the artifact common.xml, and we need to edit this. So let's edit. Okay, so under the configuration properties, we have this config escape symbol. It will evaluate to escape symbol. Then we have the my company. Now this has to be replaced with the artifact ID. So how do we change it? We'll include a dollar. So dollar artifact ID. So during the runtime, Maven will inject dollar artifact ID as the artifact ID. Okay, and this dollar symbol escape would be replaced by the escape symbol, and the dollar symbol dollar will be escape with this dollar. So ultimately, if we look at the string, it becomes config escape symbol, the actual artifact ID, then again dollar mule.env, means this string will evaluate to dollar and mule.env.yaml. So that is how this would work. So we have replaced this artifact ID. So let's just save this, and once it is saved, I think now we have made most of the changes. We have replaced the artifact name as artifact ID over here, and added the descriptions also properly, whatever the file sets we needed. We have added a filter over the raml as well, and we have added the data types and examples as well. So now we have the structure pretty much ready. Now we can go back to the target generated source archetype. Okay, so this is the actual place from where we need to install this archetype, because we have the archetype ready. Now let's go and install this. So let's open a CMD. Before installing, let me just open this form.xml. So if I see this form.xml, it has a group ID my company, artifact is demo archetype, and version is a snapshot. Packaging is Maven archetype, so this will be packaged as a Maven archetype. So that's all about this XML. So it will appear under the my company group ID, and it will appear as a demo archetype. So let's just create this archetype, mbn clean install. So the build has been completed successfully. Now let's go to the M2 folder and see if the archetype has really created or not. So I'll go to C users.m2 repository, and yeah, we can see an archetype catalog.xml has been created just now. Let's check this file. Okay, so in this file I have one archetype added, which is com.mycompany demo archetype, version is snapshot, and description is demo archetype. And let's see if we really have this dependency. Starts with com my company. All right, we have the demo archetypes created over here. So now that we have the archetype created, let's create a project out of the archetype. So I'll show you the command of the archetype. It's we have to use ambient archetype with the generate goal, and then we have to provide the archetypes group ID, which is com.mycompany, the archetype artifact ID, which is I think it's Maven archetype. Let me just quickly cross check what is the artifact ID. Repository. So the artifact ID is demo archetype. So I'll place this demo archetype. Then the version is snapshot. So the same has to be used. Snapshot. And the group ID is com.mycompany. So this three are the archetypes group ID, and this is the project that you want to create. So the group ID, let me keep it as my company, and the artifact ID as demo, and the version is 1.0. So this will apply to the new project that has been created, which will be created in a few moments. And this is the actual archetype details which we are using to create the project. So now that we have the command ready, let's just execute the command in the command prompt. So this is the command. So let's execute this. So the build is successful with all the parameters that we have given. So now let's go back to the folder and see if our project has been created. Okay, so the demos project has been created. In the demos folder, we can go to the src folder, and first let's check the property YAML files. They should be having proper name with the artifact ID. So let's go to config, and yes, the artifact id.dev.yaml has appeared. So artifact ID was demos, so it has appeared as demos, and same applies for the secure folder. All right, now let's go to the API, and we had made a change in the title. So if I go to open demos.raml, it should have the title as demos because it had artifact ID. Yeah, so we have demos. Alright, so all the runtime values, dynamic values, they have been injected properly. Now what we're gonna do is we'll try to import this project into our workspace. So file, for that let me copy the location. It's demos. File, import, next. Okay, I'll uncheck this. It has successfully imported the demos project. And yes, the common error handler is appearing here. Let's go to the global elements and see the configuration properties. Edit, right? So demos.mule env.yaml, and the same thing we have in resources folder under config demos.mule.env.yaml. Alright, now let's go to the demos. It's blank because we didn't add in the actual project. Now let's try adding an HTTP listener, and we should get all the configurations already created. It's taking some time. Alright, the listener config is ready over here. So the listener config has been acquired from the actual original archetype project that we created, and it is HTTP port. Let's see if HTTP port is defined in common.yaml. Yes, it's already defined as 8081. So let's add a path / add a transform. I'll try to run this project and see if it actually works. If we have configured everything properly, this project should work fine. Hello world. Alright, now since we have properties, some runtime properties, so we'll have to use the run as option. Go to environment, new mule.env. I'll use dev, and that should be enough. Let's apply and run. Okay, save. So the application has been started. Let's go to the browser and try to hit 8081, and we get the output. So we have successfully created a project from the archetype and we're also able to run the project. Right now, let's come to the actual question that how do we distribute this project to our team members? So it's very simple. What we need to do is like we created it from the demo project, right? So in the target folder, like we did previously, in the generated sources, we have this archetype folder. Okay, so all we need to do is we can either share this archetype project with our team members and ask them to do a Maven install, so it will install this archetype in their local repository. Or instead, if you would like to host it to your Nexus repository, it's pretty simple. Go to the pom.xml and add a distribution. Oh, yeah, I made a mistake. It got moved somewhere, but we go to the pom.xml and add a claim here. Let me move it back. Yeah, so we can edit this and add a distribution management tag and specify in the way we have plugins management. You can add a distribution management to it and specify the ID and the URL of your Nexus repository, and the corresponding settings file also should be present, and you can easily publish it to your Nexus repository. So that is how you can share this archetype with your team members. So doing this would make your project structure consistent. So now that we have made this archetype, so what are the benefits that we get? So the major benefit that is that we have made the project structure consistent. If we see the benefits, the project structure has become consistent. The dependencies and reusable components are pre-configured. Like in our case, we have pre-configured the HTTP listener. If we happen to have a TLS configuration, we can also pre-configure that, so the developer does not need to add a certificate manually and then do all the configuration. Same stands true for the database connection, SFTP connection, so that everything is taken care of, all the property files connection, and the developer focuses just on the business logic. And doing all this bootstraps your development, that you just create a starter project the way we do in Spring starter project. We just tell the dependencies that you want and it automatically generates a project and we just start coding. And so the same thing would happen in this case. We have everything configured, all the dependencies configured, just the developer starts coding in the actual business implementation file. It increases the productivity not just of the developer but also the operations team, because since they have a consistent project structure, they know where to search for, and also helps in the delivery of a well-formed ops or support team friendly project. So these are some of the advantages of creating a Maven archetype, which will ultimately help you in saving a lot of time. So I hope you would have found this video useful. Thanks for watching.